Hi, everyone. Welcome to our fourth episode. This is Lauren, and
Kristen's here. Hi.
we're all ready to do our intro today. This week's episode is with Kim. She is honestly just an amazing person. I don't have enough
Yeah,
good things to say
100%.
about her. And just to give everyone a little bit of background story, how we know Kim and kind of got, acquainted with her was when Kristen and myself lived in Houston. I got very interested in dog rescuing and helping dogs
Well,
during.
I'm going to interrupt you really
Go ahead.
quickly just because living in Houston, you can't not be aware
Yeah,
of it.
that's a
Like
good preface to
it's
give her.
one, where there's some cities where that you live in and you just I don't know, you don't see
Well, I feel
packs
like
of
you
dogs.
only know in other cities, like in Florida, like you know that there are dogs that are in need, but it's not so like you're
It's not in
driving
your
down
face
the.
at your front door. You're driving out. Like
Yeah,
you can be driving anywhere in Houston and then see a dog on the side of the road that's like maimed or something's
like
like it's like a
I
drastic
like when
situation.
we lived in Houston, I used to carry like an extra leash and some like little treats just in
Hmm.
case I had to help a dog. Because like
And I
literally,
can
like you go to
think
the grocery store
on,
and
yeah. I mean, I can think on at least 5 occasions. I was with
yeah,
you. I was with myself. I was with Peter. And like pull over and try to help a dog. I
yeah,
mean, it's just everywhere there.
right.
So I to interrupt your story before is the reason I said that is because it's so in your face. You almost can't. I mean, you can't ignore it.
Exactly. And so that all being said, that we saw that in Houston and clearly wanted to be a part of the solution, that one of the best ways that I found was getting connected via Instagram and just following along everyone's stories and how we could help. And Kim is someone who she's a part of everyone's operations.
Right. She's a
She helps, like there's
connector.
so many different rescues and Kim works with all of them.
Right.
And she one day posted this one dog that was going to be euthanized the next day because he was heartworm positive. He's the one who's barking in the background right now,
A
and
lot of
and
opinions
he,
now.
yeah, and he, I just saw him and I was like, I have to help that dog. So Kristen, I was actually abroad.
You
Long story
were
short,
actually not even in the United States.
yeah,
I
and
was in Houston. I woke up to a text message from you that was, you need to go pick up this dog. And I just said, okay, great. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, okay.
yeah,
And Peter and I went to go pick him up.
Peter is
Um,
Kristen's husband for the listeners who don't know
oh,
Kristen very well.
yes. That is who he is. At this moment in time of the story, he was not my husband yet, but and that's I was kind of like, wow, there's a lot you guys, okay, let's go get a
Yeah.
dog. And he was there for it. And we went to Bark, which in the interview, Kim talks a lot about Bark, which is the city funded organization that gets dogs off the street, tries to put them with rescues, and sort of like the first line of defense that's funded by the city. And it's an intense place. Like
Yeah.
that's all I can say is driving up. It felt very
Intense.
institutional is maybe the
Hmm.
best way of saying it.
Yeah.
And like not a lot of hope they're doing their best. I mean, they're completely overrun. It's
I
really
mean, the
tough
the
work.
problem, and as we talk about, like it's it's just this ongoing revolving door of dogs that need help and dogs that need help. So,
Right.
but
And I'm saying this to give a
Kim
little bit
posted
of
that.
I'm saying this to give a little bit of color to his name because when we went to pick him up and he was walking out, all I could think, and at the time he had been given some name like Merlin. Yeah,
Merlin.
it was Merlin. And I said, for any of you country music fans out there,
Mhm.
Merle Haggard had a stent in prison in San Quentin, which honestly Johnny Cash sings a lot about, but never was
Right.
there. And as a background, Johnny Cash sang at the prison, which Merle Haggard heard and said, at some point in my life, if I get out of here, this is what I want to do, is sing country music. And at that moment, I saw him, and in this sort of circumstance that I was picking him up, and it was rough, it was intense, it was, the whole thing seemed hard.
Mm.
And I told Lauren, I said, he's got to be Merle Haggard. Like, it just,
And now he
it's
has set the tone for my horses as well, because now I have a Johnny Cash and a Hank
Merle,
Williams.
Johnny, and Hank.
Um, yeah, those are all my animals, and Carly's just thrown into the mix. She's her own dog. But
Exactly.
so rambling a bit, but that is so essentially Merle came home. We fostered him. We adopted him. Long story short, Merle is now living with me. He is my dog.
And at
Um,
the time, he was affiliated also, which Kim talks about, Montana Pity Project, which is linked in our post on our website, linked in all of our posts on here. That they're an amazing organization. They tagged Merle. They're in Montana. We were in Texas. They are an amazing organization. So, and Kim was the one that sort of connected all the dots there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And just to give a little shout out to organizations like Montana Pity Project. So, also, the issue in Houston is that there is an influx of pit bulls, staffies. Merle himself is a bully breed. There's all of these bully breeds that people in Houston, they want purebred dogs. And so the I don't know the want of pit bulls, like they're bred and then they're unwanted, and so then they get put down a lot. So Montana Pity Project saw the need. It's a group of women. They pull a lot of dogs from Houston. The dogs get fostered in Houston, and then when they're healthy enough, ready enough, they then get shipped to Montana, because there's more of a want and a desire for bully breeds, and they get adopted a lot easier, and just give them, honestly, just a life.
and they've
That
built, I think they've built out a network that goes beyond Montana as well for their adoption purposes, I think.
Most of them, from my understanding, most of them go into Montana. Like most of them get adopted in Montana, but I
Right.
think they can go elsewhere.
Yeah. But anyways, they do an
Um,
amazing job. And
so
Kim is this key player in all of this.
Yeah, and as she speaks about, she is an oncology nurse, and that her professional career really helps deal with a lot of these medical cases that she takes on. And she just has an amazing heart, and she mentions so many times, she's like, if you want to help, you'll find a way.
Yeah.
And she has definitely found a way, and and we're linking this after the episode, that to help with this problem of so many unwanted dogs. And as she speaks about, there's so many different ways to help other than fostering and adopting.
Right. It doesn't mean you have to keep an animal in your home if that doesn't work for you, or for, a myriad of reasons, work, travel, your house, whatever. There's so many other things to do to help, even just awareness, legislation, support. There's a myriad of things people can do.
I completely agree. So, and we're going to be linking, like affiliates, links, if you do want to get involved. So we'll link those so that you guys can have access to it and help with this problem. We also have launched our first merch line for this specific episode, and Kim fosters a lot for a rescue called Katie's Foster Fam. This specific rescue does a lot of medical fosters, and Kim has one foster in her care right now named Koa, who was starved, emaciated, and is now on the road to recovery. And I know that particular dog needs a little more help, and then whatever we can donate to Kitty's Foster Fam would go to dogs like Koa and Koa himself. Koa's a boy.
Exactly. Katie's Foster Fam's amazing. So 100% of the proceeds of those shirts will go to that organization. And we really hope you guys listen, enjoy, and learn more about the issue.
Awesome. Enjoy. everyone. Welcome to Arbor. You have Lauren here, and then we have Kristen joining us.
Hello, everybody. So happy to be with you guys today.
And we have Kim as our guest today. We met Kim when Kristen and I lived in Houston. And Kim, do you want to give us a little background of yourself and introduce yourself to the Arbor listeners?
Oh, yes. So my name's Kim Nguyen. I am born and raised from Houston, Texas. Today is my 12-year anniversary of being an oncology nurse. And I love dogs. I thought when I was young I wanted to be a vet, but then, life happened. So I rescue dogs instead. And I just find now with rescuing dogs and having volunteered and having rescue dogs of my own, and I love volunteering, that I find different venues of helping along the way, such as volunteering at the dog shelter, fostering, even taking my own dogs to be pet therapy animals to different hospitals and things like that. So I'm all about the dogs. Everybody at work knows about my dogs and where to come find me if they want a dog.
And I'm just gonna just put a little information about Kim, like in my mind, essentially sainthood kind of vibes. You do this completely independently on your own with you and your family, housing, I mean, up to like dozens of dogs that you're rotating. You connect, you're like an individual connector. Lauren and I have an experience. We were part of rescuing a dog and that went through a ton of trauma, which we'll get to. Kim got the word out about Merle, who is now Lauren's dog. And upon rescuing Merle, fostering Merle, then adopting Merle, Kim was a huge resource for us. And not only that, connecting us to other rescues, other people in the community who are like, this is literally a grassroots movement to address a crisis in Houston, a crisis in the United States, a crisis around the world. So I just wanted to give a little context that it's not that like maybe you're just like, oh, I rescue dogs. Like, no, you are a one-man band who is really changing and bringing awareness to a crisis that, I mean, needs not only everybody's assistance, legislation, help, like across the board. So I just wanted to give a little more context there too, that you're actually doing so much and it's amazing.
I think when you see things or people or animals who are in need and you just can't help, like for me, I'm like, what can I do to help? Like, because the need is so bad. And how do you teach the people around you, even my parents,
Right.
because they're so old school. They used to like leave the dog outside. I'm like, no, 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 no. The
Right.
dog needs to stay inside. It's hot in Houston. We have to do, vaccinations and everything like that, So I think education is part of the big key about helping the need and the problem that we have in Houston and around the world. But I think like everybody, we were blind because we just didn't see it.
Right.
And then now that people have made awareness, because for me, I joined Houston Dog Moms Facebook group, right? Like, oh, let's meet some Houston Dog Moms. And then somebody had posted about a dog in need. And then, and it just went on from there. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this is just around the corner for me. Like what can I do to help? And so that's how it started.
Just another thing to mention for our listeners to really grasp the concept of the severity of the problem. And in Houston, it's a massive city. And basically, anywhere you go, you can find a stray dog, you can find a stray animal, you can find an animal that is in need. And you don't just take in, just a dog that's stray, that's healthy. Like, you also take in a lot of medical fosters, a lot of fosters that might have behavioral problems. And I know your house is full. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you handle having a medical foster along with a reactive foster and just the time component of what that takes of you just managing all of those different needs?
So there's a lot of crate and rotating at my house. Just like humans, we don't like everybody, right? And dogs are allowed to feel the same way, I think. I might like you and you, but I might not like my neighbor, you know?
Right.
And I think dogs feel the same way. And their way of expressing themselves is, might be the lip lick or the whale eye. After time, you kind of learn a little bit of how dogs, if they do a little growl, they're just trying to communicate to you of how insecure they feel or if they're afraid. And you, as a human, I think you have to advocate for them because they don't know how to express their feelings around you, right? And so I personally have 5 dogs. One of my dogs, Zoe, she's a German Shepherd, and she is a bit much, right? She's very loud and she growls when she plays, and she doesn't get to meet all my fosters. The little dogs, yes, she loves all the puppies, but the adults, I would rather err on the side of caution and kind of rotate them all so that I don't have a big dog fight that I can't handle at home. And yes, I do have medical dogs, and I think slow and steady wins the race. I'm sure the whole world has seen Tiki with Simon Sitz, with Isabel Klee, and the dog was so afraid and shut down. And 40 days, she had him 44 days, I think, and you can see the progression of when the dog first comes home. There's that 3-3-3 rule, right? 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months to let a dog acclimate. 3 days to like, oh my God, this is so new. And I'm just so scared. I don't know how to react. So give them that decompression time, right? Decompression time is a very big thing. Sometimes with my scare dogs who I love, I just sit with them. I don't say anything. I don't make any noise. I just sit. And so that allows a dog to come to me in their comfort zone. Like if they want to come and sniff me, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. They have their own safe space, they have their own crate, they have their own bed, and they're allowed to come in and out freely. We believe in crating all of our dogs because that's like their safe haven, right?
Right.
And once they learn, okay, it's not so bad, and then you'll slowly see their little personalities come out. And then who used to be so scared is now doing zoomies around the house or in the backyard. And then introducing your other dogs, right? You have, like, not all the personalities get along, so I kind of like put gates up so that they can sniff each other between rooms. And then, once I feel that the dogs are, the tails are like slowly wagging, it's not high in the air and fast. You kind of read the dog's body language. And if you feel that they're ready to meet, like I have one, my girl, Valkyrie, she is the dog that I bring to meet any other dogs because she can sense whether a dog is comfortable or not comfortable. And she'll either like look another way and let the dog come to her, or if that dog's coming to sniff at her, she'll let them sniff and she'll sniff them back. It's kind of like a little respectful meet and greet, as you will.
Right, right.
And I think that, like I said, slow and steady wins the race. You can't just put dogs together and say, hey, have a great time. It's you're going to have a dog fight. You just can't
Absolutely.
do that,
No question.
Yeah. And I think
especially these dogs that are like, this isn't a dog that's just like, I sat in some sort of like picturesque world and been given treats. Like they've seen the worst part of humanity. They've seen the worst part. And I think we could talk a little bit about that. Like, honestly, things I didn't even know like could happen, right? Like, yeah, we all live in our little worlds and our little bubbles or whatever. But being in Houston and seeing the experience that these dogs have with humanity, which is the worst of the worst of like, how do you have to rebuild trust, and an animal needs to rebuild trust in the human kind itself. Like, are you even safe? Because all I've seen is torture, trauma, things. So these aren't even dogs that are just like, oh, I've got lost one day or something. Like, no, I've been abused,
starved,
right? Starved. I know. I've been following the story of one of the dogs you're rescuing right now, who like emaciated to the point of death, and you are like, I mean, it's an amazing story. I'm not going to. You tell us a little bit about it because it's just incredible. But
yeah, so I used to volunteer at our shelter a lot. It's called Bark. They intake animals regardless of whatever. They're a city shelter and they have to take in dogs. They can't say no. And so so long story short, I had an open space for a foster, and Katie, which is the director of Katie's Foster Fam Rescue, she's like, okay, well, I'm going to head to the shelter and you have an open spot, so let's pick you out a new foster. And I had seen a picture of Koa and immediately drawn to him because, I'm a nurse at heart, so I like to rehabilitate the ones that need me the most. So she went to go meet him, and he looked like her past foster named Coral,
Right.
who unfortunately didn't survive. He is body condition score, they say BCS of 1 out of 9, where he was literally just skin and bones. He weighed 22 pounds. And now he weighs 30,
It's
but
incredible.
it's a long process of
Yeah.
getting them to safely gain weight, because they can have something called refeeding syndrome, where if your body has an influx of nutrients, all of a sudden it can cause your organs to go out of whack, right? And we didn't want their kidneys to shut down. So it's, like I said, slow and steady wins the race. But she brought him home to me, and he hung out for, we started doing the refeeding. And then I saw that he was a little bit weak and lethargic, and I said, we really, let's take him to the vet. And I love fostering for Katie's Foster Fam, or CFF, because the dog's health is number one.
Right.
It doesn't matter what time of day. It can be at 2 o'clock in the morning. If I call them, it's an emergency. Hey, I'm making up a call right now. You head to the vet. It's important to find these reputable rescues, because not all rescues are reputable. I think that's also the most important thing, right? But yeah, Koa is, I've had him for almost 4 weeks now, and he is, he's got such a personality. He loves kissing my corgi.
No.
He loves mealtime. We got the okay to do treats, so he's very excited for treats now. And just like I said, slow and steady wins the race. And we hope to get him nice and healthy, and then eventually adopted.
Well, and I think you touched on it a little bit, but something, I obviously follow you on Instagram. You are the reason why I have Merle. And watching, seeing the problem in Houston and watching, and as you said, you're a nurse, so like you want to help repair and heal these dogs. Seeing all these dogs that need help, how do you make that decision of this is the one I'm going to take in, or, I'm going to try and network this one? Because I know you do a lot of networking, even though dogs that you can't take into your home. What is that process for you?
So one, it depends if we have an open spot, right? Again, I have 5 personal dogs, but so I have to have space. And if we were to only stick with one dog, we would have stopped a long time ago, because of, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know that I have 2 long-term fosters, right? Jewel has been with me for over 4 years now. We rescued her from the shelter. And back then she didn't walk. She needed a wheelchair. We have rehabilitated her. Now she zoomies everywhere. But it's hard to network for somebody who wants to adopt a dog who has special needs, right? Because she's incontinent. And so I understand that she, when I offered to foster, that she would be with us for a long time. It's just, networking to the right crowd,
Right.
I guess you say, to find that person to adopt, and word of mouth or sharing is the way to do it, right? And so it's great that you guys have a podcast, because then she can get more eyes on her,
Yeah, exactly.
And then our second one, Sully with Montana Pretty Project, he was also a dog in need. He was found as a stray, and his intake picture was pitiful, and I'm just like, bring him to me. It's just the sad cases that I'm really drawn to, and I think my skills as a nurse, I can help in those medical dogs. And so that's part of how I decide to take in a dog, right? The ones that I think that I can help with the most. And of course, I talk to Donnie, my other half. I'm like, I send him a picture and be like, hey, look at this. He's like, okay, yes, bring him home, you know? He's like the magic power behind everything. Like, you see a lot of me posting things, but he's like my support group. You know, like he wakes up and he feeds the dogs, he potties them, and he works from home a few days out of the week. So he is like he's the other half of our team. You know,
Right.
like I couldn't do
Yeah.
this without him. You know, it's everybody in the household. Even when my kids lived here, you know, they help take the dogs out, they hate dog sit and things like that. So but moving on, you know, so I have two long-term fosters. I'm like, okay, well, I have what's called a little buddy card. So if I see a little dog, Donnie can't veto me because it's a little buddy. So it's the little dogs. So currently I have Ramsey. Ramsey's story is a little funny because he was an owned puppy and he had gotten into something that he shouldn't have. And so they took him to the ER to get him checked out, but they couldn't afford it. So they surrendered to the vet. And then the vet reached out to rescues, and then Katie's foster fam agreed to take him on. Well, little did we know that our little man is a little drug head and he likes pot.
Oh my
So
gosh.
he had to just sleep it off. But yeah, so, you know, that's my little man Ramsey. And then I have Koa. So I have four fosters, right? And there's a lot of, and they each have a different need, you know?
Right.
And you just have to, I just say you just have to make it work. If you want to help, you will make it work.
Yeah.
You will put the dedication to it if that's your passion, right? And this is my passion. And so we just make it work.
Watching, I mean, for us, like at one point in our personal house, we had 5 dogs, and like you can't do it alone. Like it's too much.
You
to
literally
take
can't.
on.
Like, all of our dogs, like I have 3 personal dogs. Lauren has 2. There was a time when we were all together, and there was no, even between the two of us, like my now husband, then boyfriend, like it was like we, like not only him, but like if we had to do something, his friends, our friends, like there's no way. And then like talk about create and rotate. Like thank God
Yeah.
we had floors in the house
Yeah.
because, you know, 2 on a good day, you know, still are going to fight or still
Right.
have like expressive opinions about a lot
Yeah.
of things. And then these 3 are, you know, these 2 love to play and that one hates when they play. And so you're just constantly,
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, even with my personal dogs, I have 5 dogs, and Odin is our last adoption. And Odin and Loki don't get along because
Right.
like Odin's very in your face and growly when he plays. Only Val likes him to play like that, and Loki's set in his ways. He's an old man. He's like, boy, you better get in my face. So you know what I mean? Like I get it because Odin's a nuisance sometimes, and he just doesn't know boundaries. And you have to, like I said, you have to advocate for your dog. Like
Yeah.
Loki is not comfortable with Odin in his face, just, you know, kind of, you know, and so you really have to put in the time it takes time. It really does
So much time.
if you want to make it work, you know, just baby steps, and you can't just throw them in. You really, really have to put time with your dogs to make it work.
Yeah, at 100%. And I think there is a piece, and you touched on it a little bit, talking about your parents and that the like education piece and the educate. I mean, I know there was like a learning curve for me,
Yeah.
in the sense of like the crisis that was going on, that was so blatant, like that the mistreatment of animals was so like in your face, like it's not behind, you know, in a ditch or something
Yeah.
in Houston, like it's everywhere, and you can't like you have to choose.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look to not look, and just doing like a little just
Right.
data research. I had looked up, you know, essentially in the U.S. there's 6 million dogs and cats that enter a rescue situation, and that number just continues to grow. And then the
Yeah.
flips, and then about at the end of the day, about 600,000, these are rough numbers, get euthanized just because, which then goes into, like you're saying, vaccinations, like getting your dogs neutered or spayed, you know, the overbreeding, education about that. And then on the flip side, that $600,000 dogs and cats get euthanized. But in this is from the No Kill Advocacy Center that is big on lobbying. They're really big about lobbying and creating laws to help animals and help this whole process of like rescuing, etc. That 96% of Americans, when asked, feel it is a moral duty to protect animals, and states should support laws. So if that number is true, then as Americans, we agree on like essentially nothing, but we essentially agree on this, right? That it is our moral responsibility to do something about this. So my belief in humanity and Americans then is that it's just that people don't know, that there isn't enough education and that there isn't enough out there to be like, okay, so then what can I do? Right. And maybe
Yeah.
you could talk a little bit about that of like resources. I mean, I know you've connected us in so many things, but like if you have any thoughts on that or things to do or people who organizations that are educating people.
I'm trying to look on my phone. Texas legislator or something. There's a group. I'll have to look for it later and send it to you guys. But because I think it starts off with people who vote the right people in position, right? Because only then those people can make it, you know, they can send funds to different shelters and things like that,
Right.
so we can start even there. But without just this, even the small education from there, voting your people in, making awareness like you guys with podcasts, and like network and market to even the kids. You know, kids are learning from everything that they're watching. You know what I mean? So if we would just have better, shows that include animal welfare in their cartoons of helping dogs or cats or rabbits or, a gecko, whatever the animal is.
Right.
I just feel that TV these days is just it's nothing helpful. I don't want reality TV. I want the good old things that we used to have. But they're like voting for the right people, voting from the city on up to your state and the national level, to make awareness, and then spreading the word. And you mentioned the no kill movement. And I want you to be very careful with that, because I get that we don't want all the animals killed, but there is a severe part of the no kill movement, that just as long as a dog is out of the shelter, then it's safe. But they
Right.
don't realize that these sanctuaries that people are putting in, what kind of detrimental, like, just because they're out of shelter, they don't have health care. They're not being vaccinated. They're just being shoved somewhere, even starved.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's very important to research who you are fostering for and which animal welfare group even put yourself with, because what you don't see behind the screens it's appalling.
Yeah.
And I've seen, and that's why, certain pages where, people get blocked on the networking pages, and they said, oh, these people are just mean girls. And like, no, they're blocking these people for a reason, because the internet keyboard warriors who are behind all this other networking, they're responsible for all the dogs who've been, dying in cages because it's out of the shelter now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%.
That's a really big thing. Yeah.
And I think
people
that's
that know
a
that
huge
either.
thing for, like, obviously when we were just sort of getting into it and trying to be like, how can we help, whatever, was that you connecting us to actual, like, hey, Montana Pity Project, right? Like, these women in Montana are connecting dogs from Houston to
Texas,
Montana
yeah.
or anywhere or whatever. And it's like, it's getting to know, and we'll list in the show notes and all of that, like, really great rescues that are doing great work that, will be committed to a dog like that you've had for years, and be like, we're committed, we're doing it.
Yeah. And that's also another thing. Like, once you find them, you really have to, they might look all pretty on the internet. They might have 90,000 followers or 100,000 followers, but if you like, how many people are trying to speak out but then get gaslighted because they're not paying attention to what their fosters are saying? Like, they just left me with this dog and they didn't, like,
Right.
I had to pay for this. Thankfully, the fosters that the groups that I foster for, they pay for their medical, they pay for their food. I just supply the home and the love. And
Right.
that's the way it's supposed to be done, right? Not the ones that kind of like, oh, you have the dog. Why don't, you get the food, you deal with it. You deal with boarding if you have to. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just not right.
No, it's not.
And I know that there's also an issue of us being in the rescue world a little bit while we were in Houston, that one of the largest issues is actually finding people who will foster, who will be, as you said, like if you want to help, like you'll go out and do it. And I know that one of the largest issues is that people aren't stepping up to foster. And then I know that there's sometimes when people do step up, then they're like, well, the dog didn't fit in my house. Can you take it back? Can you
Yeah.
discuss a little bit of the trials and tribulations of finding adequate fosters to help these animals?
So definitely word of mouth, spreading your families and friends and your coworkers, to let them know that, yes, this is really a really, really big need that we have. Can you, and when you have a good rescue that you foster for, they will match you with what you're looking for. I only want puppy fosters. I want the old sit on the couch fosters. I want an active dog. Like, a good rescue will match you up with the right dog for you. Now, again, I reiterate the 333 rule. When the dog comes home, you have to give the dog decompression time. You can't just think it's a perfect dog. Again, like you guys said, these dogs have a story. They have a past. Something was wronged. They were found on the street. They were a stray. They were shot at. They were starved. It's just all the number of different things. So it's just not a happy-go-lucky dog all the time that you might be fostering. Again, the rescue that you foster for will match you with the dog that you are willing to foster. You have to give it time for the dog to acclimate. Now, if you can't do that, I really think you should take a look, okay, reevaluate your situation. Okay, well, how can I help if I can't? So there's temp fostering, right? Where I'm in groups where they're like, oh, I just need somebody to watch my dog for the weekend. That's helping.
Right, for sure.
Or the rescues that need transport. Hey, I need this dog to go from this house to the vet because there's not a ride and the foster works. And those are different ways of helping too, right?
Yeah, it's huge.
So, yeah, I mean, there's just so little ways to help, as long as you have the heart and you want to help,
Right.
right? I can find anything for you to do. Just let me know how you want to help.
Right.
If you're not comfortable with this, maybe there's something else that you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable in front of the camera, okay, let's do background work. You can be the puppy wrangler. We had puppy yoga and puppy Pilates. You just wrangle the puppies. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
There's just little things that you can be the t-shirt seller at our thing. So however it is that you can help. When we have fundraisers, we have really good fundraising people. You know what I mean? So everybody can help. It's just how you can help, and we can explore on those avenues.
Yeah, and I think one of the wildest things that we experienced was, you hear a lot of people being like, well, I want a purebred golden retriever. I want a purebred lab. You will find that in Houston as a
Oh
stray.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah. Odin,
there's,
my dog was a stray. He's a corgi, purebred. you know?
It's
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. French bullies, bulldogs, English bulldogs, German shepherds, of course, huskies. We know pit bulls are everywhere. I've had very, very many different purebred dogs, Great Danes, Blue Merle Great Danes, just all sorts. There's always, always, always a pure breed in rescue if you look hard enough.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
what is your advice to someone who has never fostered, would like to foster? Where would you take them to kind of get educated on if they were matched up with a more reactive dog? There's, as you said, there's the 333 rule. So they have to decompress. And then if their personality comes out that's a little bit more aggressive or reactive, what would be the advice you would give to that foster?
You would definitely have to work closely with your rescue, because they have different certain protocols, right? And a lot of times, and you kind of have to also learn as you go because you don't know these things,
Right.
right? So you want to start off with the easier dogs, right? There's always the little puppies who are easier. When you've already wet your foot and then you're like, okay, you've had a few dogs on your belt. Okay, I can, then if you want to think about, getting other behavioral dogs, or all of a sudden you thought this dog wasn't behavioral and then all of a sudden it was, work with your rescue, work with a trainer. Trainers it's a very valuable tool, and listen to them. And then again, not all trainers are good trainers, so look into that too.
Right.
There's different ways of training, but and dog behaviorists, and look at their credentials and who have they worked with, and their past things. But again, time and being able to put in that effort. You want to put in effort to help this dog. If you give up with if you give up on the dog on the very first time, how would you feel if somebody gave up on you on the very first time that you
Exactly.
messed up? You know what I mean? So have that compassion, be understanding, empathetic, for a dog that can't communicate with you. The dog is really just trying to communicate something, and we just have to listen better. You know?
Yeah, and I think you said it so great that like the dog is not broken. It just you just have to have compassion and give them the time and the space and let them heal and let them be the dog that they're supposed to be. And watching so many stories that you've done, I think the one that really was hard to watch, but and I know it was a group effort, was, I believe his name was Samson, the one that you guys found. If you would touch on that story, like, that was such a rescue effort and a sad story that ended well. If you would just talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
So, the internet is a great thing because once you start liking thing, and then the network is networking, right? And then so I saw a picture of Samson. Somebody posted in one of the dog groups, a dog that needs help, right? It's just, that's how it starts. A dog needs help. Somebody
Right.
posts a picture and say, can somebody please help? And Samson's ear was like kind of ripped off. It looked like he was in like a bait dog situation. And he just wasn't really getting up. He was in somebody's backyard. Myself and a really good friend of mine, Stephen Halpert, who is a really big dog advocate, and he is one of the head of a group called Friends of Bark, who helps the dogs that bark. So he and I both went out. We got the location. We went up there and we saw him hiding under, these bushes, and just kind of to the side and just kind of crying and whining.
Wow.
And then when we leashed him and we got him up, we could see that one of his legs was swollen. So there was no way that he was gonna survive. Like, you could tell that his arm was infected, and there was blood on him everywhere. So we decided to take him to the ER. And Bree, back then, she had a Blue River Animal Rescue. She agreed to take him under her rescue. And so we took him there and we did x-rays and everything. That we found out that he had a bullet wound, and he had a bullet in him. But he needed more care, so we transferred him over to Vergie, and then from there, he needed funds, right? And so Katie, with Katie's foster fam, teamed up with Blue River, with Bree, and was able to help network the funds for donations for Samson. And so when I picked him up, I just remembered his tail was wagging, and he was ready to go. He's like, I am ready to get out, break out of jail. I'm feeling
Right.
better. He was there for a few days with antibiotics, wound cleaned and things like that. And we came out of the door, and I opened up my SUV, and he just hopped in like he knew what to do.
Aw.
Like, I'm like, all right, we're going home. And then I took him for a couple of days where he stayed at my house. And then I also had another dog at my house, Frankie, with Katie's foster fam, who was also a bait dog, he just laid by Samson, I feel like he's like, hey, dude, you're good now. Like
Yeah.
this is your
Oh.
safe space, and they just kind of laid together. I kept them. He was one. Samson was created. He had his own safe space, and then Frankie is really dog friendly, and so he just kind of laid to the side and didn't intimidate him so much, and they just kind of lay together quietly. And then after that, Samson went to his permanent foster, which is Rashi, who I also met on the interwebs on Instagram, and the foster and the rescue group people. We kind of start knowing to get to know each other, right?
Right.
So Rashi had him for, I want to say, almost a year.
Mhm.
And then, oh, hang on one second. He went to Bree's house first. I forgot that. He went to
Okay.
Bree, which is Blue River Animal Rescue head, for a little while. And then after that, he went to Rashi. And then from there, he got adopted because people, they posted his stories and everything. And it just reached all the way to New York. And so now he's living happily ever after at home, being spoiled in New York. There's videos of him doing, zoomies in the snow. It's just, and it's so great to know that you were a part of this. To know that a dog that was at the near brink of death is now living the life because you decided that you wanted to help, that you just even answering the call, transporting the dog to the vet, keeping a dog for a day or two, that is helping. Spreading their awareness of that and just making people, because people don't know. Like I said, people don't know that it happened. I didn't realize, I for one, I didn't know all this stuff before when I've been fostering for a little over 4 years now. Before I was clueless, right? I
Right.
didn't know, I didn't know that we were such a need. And now I'm like, oh my God, there's not enough of me to help. I only have so much space. And so spreading awareness of these situations, you might not be able to, that somebody in your circle will be able to. So
Mhm.
being that person to just spread the awareness is even key. Even $1 for that one dog, it helped Samson get through, being at the ER.
Definitely. And like even as you
Yeah.
said, like even something, even if you can't physically take a dog in, like if you
Mm-hmm.
can, if you have $5 that you could give to that dog, like it changes that
Mm-hmm.
dog's world.
Yeah.
And like you may not be able to save them all, but like you can, like the ones that you do save, like it matters. It matters that
Yeah.
you spent that time and you saved that life.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I've posted my wish lists and they have been bought out from my supporters and my followers or friends and family, for dog things, that a dog bed or chew toys or treats or dog food. Even supporting that way on wish lists, that helps too. Saving your $5 from having a cup of coffee, that pays for vaccinations for a dog. Every little thing that there's millions ways to help as long as you have the heart to do it.
Absolutely. And I think there's a piece, not to like take it super philosophical, but there is a piece of like, obviously everything we've been through with Merle, I mean, two of my dogs were abused and we rescued them. And one being significant, like, and nobody knows her story. One of my husband's friends found her chained with like a huge chain to a stop sign in Houston. And like, no, we have no idea how long she was there.
Yeah.
It's like 100 degrees, no idea. But the process of getting her through her anxiety, through her just, and she had internalized a lot of it. Like she's not one of the, like we're humans, right? Like I'm not a super expressive person, but I'll definitely internalize things. That's exactly like our Sylvie. And so it's taken a lot of like, and yeah, we do we do everything for our dogs. And so, from Chinese herbs to whatever it is, like we're figuring it out to like make her feel better.
Which I will give
But
a plug for the rescue world, that because I follow, it was Bully Baloo that she posted that
Yeah.
she was going to acupuncture. And I was like, I think Sylvie would do great.
yeah,
And that's
has
been
it totally
amazing for
changed
her.
her. Totally changed her. And our other one, Oso, who he actually had like physical. I think he was flying too hard one day and like messed up his shoulder and like just wasn't. And the
Yeah.
regular vet was like, "Oh, you need to do, all this medication and this and that," and it wasn't working. And they kind of like didn't have a solution for us. And then we we went to the acupuncturist, and
Yeah.
4 sessions later, like, never have had an issue again. He's super
Yeah.
happy, 8 years old. They're all wild. But I'm saying all that to say is, like, it's also the process of taking care of them, the process of helping them rehabilitate, getting to know their personalities, being patient. Like, it's a key. It's a key to everything. It's a key to raising, like, human children. It's the key to raising animals. It's the key to all of it. It's like, be patient, be empathetic, be thoughtful. Yes, of course, there are boundaries. Yes, of course, we have all of those things. But it's made me a better human. And I think there's so much of that I'm like, I also think differently when I engage with someone, because with an animal, they're never going to be able to talk to you, right? So you've always got to pick up from, like, the way they're positioning the body, what they're doing. And it helps you engage with humans that, like, oh, wait, I'm not going to just have this feeling towards someone. Like, maybe they're going through something. Maybe they're sort of standoffish for a reason, and let me be empathetic or thoughtful about that. So I think, in addition to, obviously, there's a need, it's our responsibility as humanity, all of these things. It's like, there's also this takeaway that I'm like, I'm a much, like, I love the person it's created me to be in through this process. And it would only happen if I was the hours and the days and the months and the years of managing all of the crazy animals that are in our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah. I think it definitely teaches you patience. Because I can go 0 to 100 seeing red real
Right.
quick. But what's that saying? You attract better with honey. You know, you
Like
attract
flies with
bees
honey rather
bees
than
better with
vinegar.
honey than
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
yeah, yeah. So I think if I think I think their love is a universal language, whether it be to humans, dogs, animals. And I think we need more of it because the world is kind of crazy right now. And dogs just have that unconditional love,
They do.
If once you gain their trust, they will give you 1000%.
Yeah.
And I think their love is so much worth. I can come home from a day of work, and it's a long, hard day with cancer patients, right? But I come home and I see the little wiggle booty, and kisses and love, and just the happiness on their faces bring me joy.
Yeah.
And I think everybody needs a dog, whether they really, or a cat,
I would
or a
agree. Or
bunny,
cat. Yeah.
or something, a
Yeah.
support animal of something, right? Just the way I think everybody should be a server in their life, because, you have to learn how to serve people and just know the different types of personality, like you said.
Yeah.
I can be I'm actually a really introvert. I don't like to be in front of the camera. I don't like to say, "Oh, look at me." I just like to do things, and that's why I probably hang out with more dogs than humans, because I'm more comfortable around them. But yeah, I think if everybody just took the time to love on somebody or love an animal, it would be a better place.
Yeah. It would
And I
change
think
things.
one of the most beautiful things that watching the dogs in Houston and watching my personal dog Merle, like, I don't know exactly what he's been through. He obviously had some sort of a past, but the fact that whatever he went through, whatever trauma he went through, he's still able to love humans even after that
Yeah.
trauma. Like, and I think it's something that humans can learn as well, that it's like, you've been hurt, but I think dogs can show you that, like, yeah, you might have a past, but it doesn't mean that your future doesn't include love. It doesn't mean that you can't trust again. And I think that is something so beautiful. I'm a huge animal person, obviously. I have dogs and
Yeah.
horses, and I think animals speak so much louder than humans do with their body because they have to. And it's one of those things that me as an animal person, I watch and I'm like, it's such a beautiful process to watch how they're like, I'll forgive and I'll love again.
Yeah. It's
That's the
amazing.
hardest part, is to forgive, right? We can learn so much from animals if we just like are more in tune with them, because I don't think they hold grudges. I just think that they're fearful of what they've
Yeah.
been through. And
Right.
so they're just trying to learn to just kind of get through life with that past.
Right.
But dogs are more resilient than we think they are if we give them the time to get to the 100%. Like Fiona, my one of my latest fosters who left and has been adopted, she was found on the streets and like she had no fur and she was skinny. And then now she lives in Magnolia with her big brother, Chocolate Lab, who has dear friends in the backyard. You know, like I
Yeah.
love getting these updates. When you guys send me updates of Merle next to the horses, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, spam me any time of day. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I love getting updates because it's all this work that you did that you were a part of. And now there's happiness in the world for this dog and the humans around it because you had a part in it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I
it's
that's
incredible.
my drive. Like those updates, that's what drives me.
It's incredible. Well, we are so grateful for you and for obviously all you've already input into our lives and connected us, but so grateful for you to come on and to share your story, give more, shed more light onto the situation and who is helpful and who can be helpful and how we can all be helpful. So we'll be sure that everyone can connect with you and definitely connect with your current, foster dogs, and especially Koa. I know who still needs a lot of love, a lot of help, and so we just thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. I just, just little old me. you know, um, I mean, you were just saying you're just not little old you. I just think everybody could do it. I think if you want to put good in the world, you'll find a way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so thanks for just shining a light on what I do as a foster for the dogs that are in need and putting awareness in this world because it's not just in Houston or in
Right.
Florida or in New York. It's all over the world. And I think dogs are people,
Yeah.
they just have their own little quirky personalities. But like I said, I thank you guys for having me and listening to me ramble on and on. But yeah, foster, adopt, rescue, donate, put any time to educating the people around you.
That's awesome. Thank you
Amazing.
so
Thank you
much,
so
Kim. And
much.
we'll be sure to connect as many people as we can to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.